Today's show is brought to you by...
This program is made possible by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns and by contributions to our newly launched Patreon by viewers like you. Visit patreon.com/Homebrew Happy Hour and join our community. Thank you.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
There we go. Hello and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like discussed on a future episode, visit homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing, and today I am joined by the Events and Membership Coordinator for the American Homebrewers Association, Mr. Matt Bolling. Matt, thank you so much for doing the show with me, man.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
I am terribly excited because this weekend is, well, first off, I don't want to self-boast, but if you've listened to the show, I make this about me 10 out of 10 times. But Saturday is my birthday, but even bigger on a national scale, if you can believe it, it's National Learn to Homebrew Day. It's not... I don't know. All right. I guess I won't jump right into it, but is this considered on par with Big Brew, or is this like a auxiliary to Big Brew? Because I view Big Brew as like we're brewing that day for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's on par with, your birthday is really the reason that we're celebrating Learn to Homebrew Day. No, I'm just
I assumed. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to put words in your mouth. That's all.
Yeah, no, Learn to Homebrew Day actually is something, this will be the 21st year of the American Homebrewers Association celebrating it. It was launched in 1999 as Teach a Friend to Homebrew Day. We kind of renamed it a couple of years ago to be more all-encompassing, and just our way of trying to encourage current hobbyists to go out and, set up some sort of homebrewing demo and teach people how to homebrew. And we try to get the word out to people who are, maybe hobby curious and wanting to learn more about how to get into homebrewing and go to one of these registered events around the country. So yeah, it's always the first Saturday in November. And we partner with usually between 200 and 250 registered events around the country and around the world. And usually we estimate somewhere around 3,000 or 4,000 people come out to one of those events.
I had no idea it was that many events. That's a lot more than I thought. But I guess I also forget how many tens of thousands of members there are of the AHA, or is it hundreds of thousands now? I forget the
No, not hundreds of thousands. I wish, but we have 46,000 members. About it fluctuates throughout the year, but 46,000 is about what we're at currently.
I knew it was up there, and I always wondered what would happen if y'all did, like, Nashville next year for Homebrew Con seems like a central enough location that might bring in way more than any other. Like, Portland 2 years ago was wonderful. I loved it. And then the whole opposite coast this year and Providence was incredible, phenomenal. Nashville, are you expecting it to be one of the bigger attended ones because of location and because it's freaking Nashville?
It's freaking Nashville. Yeah, I think so. I mean, for anybody who's listening and hasn't been to the conference before, I think this is the year you're going to want to come and check it out, because we are going to be, it's freaking Nashville,
Enough said.
Enough said. So anybody who hasn't been, the Homebrew Con is 3 days of educational seminars on everything to do with homebrewing. The biggest homebrewing expo, the homebrewing expo to rule them all, kinda. The biggest, shiniest, best new equipment is always there for people to browse and shop. And we've got, the legendary club night where all of the homebrew clubs come and pour their beer for everybody. And it's kind of just the most eclectic room of beers you've ever been into. And we also have the final round of the National Homebrew Competition. Anybody that entered the national competition and gets a gold or silver or bronze medal, we have the conference. The award ceremony for people who get a medal. So it's just homebrewing's biggest weekend, and This will be the first time that we're bringing the conference to Nashville ever, and it's the first time that it will be in a southern state since it was in Orlando, and I think 2006.
Oh wow!
So we're really excited about Nashville. We've got talking to a lot of the local homebrew clubs and breweries who are already starting to plan some really cool events around it. So
with what you do at the AHA,
awesome.
I imagine it's like as soon as Providence ended, you've already, before even this year's Homebrew Con, we're planning out Nashville, right? Like it's like a year-round kind of thing to get all the pieces to fall in place and have it be the experience that it is. Because I can tell you, and we've said it on the show a million times, like Homebrew Con is easily my most favorite conference of the year.
Oh, well, thank you.
It is, we go to a bunch of small trade shows and we go to big ones too. CBC, we're showing at San Antonio next year. We'll be working it, and it's fun, but it's different. It's different. Homebrew Con is fun in like no one judges me in my Crocs and khaki shorts kind of way. Where like CBC,
that's the official Homebrew Con uniform.
That is the official. Yeah. And club night, I haven't gotten James or Todd to dress up. I want to make James a pin lock or a ball lock keg and Todd a pin lock keg.
Oh,
I think
that'd be great.
Yeah, their body sizes would fit that, but they're not into it. I'm trying my best though.
Yeah, the costumes you see at club night are just so funny. I don't know when this is airing, but I don't know if we can say we're talking about we're doing this interview on Halloween.
Oh yeah, happy Halloween!
Yeah, thank you. But it's funny you kind of go to club night at HomebrewCon and it's like a little mini homebrewers Halloween. Like everybody's in some sort of different costume, and the booths all have different themes this year. Well, actually, one of my favorite ones a couple years ago was when we were in Baltimore in 2016, and one of the local clubs had built their booth to be a pirate ship.
Yep.
And it was on wheels, and they were wheeling it around the expo hall and pouring beer for everybody. And that was just the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I'm not sure if our security people loved it, but I loved it.
Hey, this year, the only controversy I saw was there was some expletives at one of the booths with like sexualized names or something, because we went to go get a pour and the lady behind the booth, we're like, well, what is that one? And she's like, well, I can't say it out loud because they had to change my name to, or what. It was something super blunt too. I don't even want to say, I would be butchering it.
Well, the homebrewing community is an extremely welcoming group of people, and we just want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable at those events.
Absolutely.
We introduced a code of conduct this year that actually kind of addressed that and said, make sure that everybody feels welcome. So, everybody followed it. There were a couple, things that we had to just make sure that people understood that, this is a welcoming environment. So, but overall, we didn't run into too much of that. So.
I think, and I would be surprised if you had said you did, only from the standpoint of, I've been working in some capacity in the draft beer and home brewing industry for a little over 11 years. And the vast majority of people who brew their own beer or retailers in this space or other kind of vendors, they're very chill. It's probably my favorite community of people. If I'm generalizing communities of people, homebrewers are just very relaxed, very chill. And like you said, I'm glad you pointed out the desire to be welcoming. That's kind of what I think is so great about a day like Learn to Homebrew Day. Can I call it a holiday? They call a bunch of things holidays. It's a holiday, right?
Yeah. So Learn to Homebrew Day is, like I think I already mentioned, but it's the first Saturday in November every year. And it's kind of designed to introduce people to the hobby. And it's sort of a complimentary day to our annual Big Brew, which is always the first Saturday in May. And that is designed to celebrate National Homebrew Day. So actually in 1988, Congress passed a bill that actually recognizes May 7th every year as National Homebrew Day. So on the first Saturday in May, we kind of celebrate National Homebrew Day with Big Brew because, May 7th doesn't always fall on a Saturday, and homebrewers can't always get together to make beer on a Tuesday morning or something. So the first Saturday in May is always kind of close enough to May 7th that Big Brew is considered to be kind of the national holiday for homebrewing. And it's very similar to Learn to Homebrew Day, where we set up registered events all around the country, and homebrew shops, homebrew clubs, breweries, retailers, and even just individuals in their backyard. People at their own residences will set up and invite people to come and check out what it looks like to brew a batch of beer. So we usually see, again, about 200, 250. I think Big Brew might get up to even like 300 events every year. And I think last year we had like 10 or 11 different countries celebrating it as well.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, a lot of registered sites in South America. There's one in Israel every year that gets registered. A couple in Australia. So, Big Brew has grown to be not just something that the American Homebrewers Association celebrates, but homebrewers from all over the world are brewing that day.
It's an international holiday. I'm going to ask Todd to have it off next year. Actually, we end up brewing around that time anyway for it, like for video stuff for this podcast. So I can't complain. I'm brewing. And this weekend, I'm just not brewing Saturday. We have it a thing already because my wife's birthday is actually tomorrow, Friday. So we kind of have this thing already planned out.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, home brewers, but I'll be brewing. I'll be brewing a breakfast stout clone on Sunday with my pop. So I'm kind of looking forward to having that in the fridge for the Christmas time. I want to rewind a little because I always do this. I forgot. I'd like to start, like, you have been with the AHA for a little while. I've at least as long as we've been going to y'all's events, I always see your smiling face in some former capacity. What is your history as a brewer, as a home brewer, and what got you even into the working for the American Homebrewers Association? Because I actually just learned you're not even in Boulder. You're remote. So yeah,
I live in Virginia. I live in Fredericksburg, Virginia, but I lived in Boulder for 6 years and worked at the AHA is a sub organization of the Brewers Association, and the headquarters office is in Boulder, Colorado. So I moved back to the East Coast, where I'm originally from, last year. But I still work for the association remotely. So yeah, I got into homebrewing. I've been working for the AHA it'll be 7 years in March. And I get to work with, some awesome people every day. My boss, Gary Glass, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with him. You get to see him at Homebrew Con every year. We've got a great staff that is really, they're all homebrewers, so we get together as a staff every so often and brew a beer together and put it on tap at the office. So it really is great to put on all of these events and work on behalf of homebrewers, and the people who are doing that kind of work are homebrewers themselves. I started homebrewing about, I guess it was like 8 or 9 years ago now. And I was living in Colorado, and I kind of had a background in event management, and the AHA had posted this position, and I was just like, wow, what a dream job. I hope I would love to do that. And
I like brewing. I like event management.
I like brewing. I like to work with people. So now it'll be 7 years in March, and it's been 7 of the best years of my life because I get to meet awesome homebrewers from all over the country. Yeah, no, everyone,
the last time we've been to Boulder was 2015, I believe. We did an interview with Steve. He's with the BA now, right? Like I think technically, so I could throw him under the bus. He doesn't even listen to this show. Steve, you don't listen. I miss him actually on club nights because he was always so snazzy. And this was the first year.
He did have some pretty good suits.
He did. And this year, didn't see Steve, didn't get my annual picture. I'm coming for you, Steve. I follow you on Instagram. But everybody, like y'all are, I love the team there, between like you and Millie and Carrie and Gary. Charlie, even though he forgets me every year, and I get it, I have a forgettable face, but everybody there, it's super cool. It's trying to be, do you make it to Boulder frequently, or are you lucky enough that you don't have to? Like, because I love, Todd, I've been with him for almost 12 years, and remote is such a wonderful thing in 2019 I go up there frequently, but for me, it's a 3-hour drive. For you to Boulder is a lot longer of a trip.
About a 30-hour drive, I'd say. Yeah. No, I get over there a couple times a year now. It's only been about a year that I've been working remotely, but Yeah, I mean, the office is right there in downtown Boulder, and if anybody has ever been to Boulder before, they know that it's it's just a beautiful town. And yeah, so I make it back every so often. I was back in Colorado for the Great American Beer Festival earlier this month.
Yes.
Wow, gosh, we're still in October. It seems
just a few more hours. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Are you? I forget too about that just happened. We had some stuff going on. So Great American Beer Festival this year, I was like, oh, I want to go, and then unfortunately I couldn't go. One of my kiddos had some stuff come up, but we next year I would love to. That we worked that as Keg Connection in 2013 or 2012, and that was the year. Whatever year Conan came to do a remote.
Yeah, a Triumph. The Insult Comic Dog.
I've got a picture with me and Robert Smeagol with he's holding the puppet, and he couldn't have been nicer. He was the nicest guy. I'm just fortunate he didn't he didn't do a bit with me.
Right.
But the ones he did are fantastic. That I've never laughed so hard being able to recognize people on this bit. Triumph just murdering them.
I've been a big I love Conan. I love Triumph the Insult Comic Dog. The bit that they did when they were doing the Star Wars prequels.
Yes.
And there was one that he went to the oh my gosh, that was so funny.
He had the nerd fight. Yeah.
So when he came to GABF and I was working it, I just was having a little fan freak out kind of moment, and I still had to very much focus on what I was doing. But I was so ecstatic to see him there. It was a lot of fun.
That's how I felt too, because I mean I grew up and I was probably too young to be watching Saturday TV Funhouse, but I did anyway. And Robert Smiegel's cartoons. And Smigel or Smeagol? I always mess it up.
Not sure.
I think it's Robert Smigel. Sorry. Wedding Singer is where I first saw him when he was the chef in it and wearing the relax shirt. Freddie Says Relax.
I didn't realize he's in that movie.
Back
and watch that.
I pay way too much attention, but but yeah, that year was so much fun. I also though, because you're the events coordinator, I'm trying to make this relevant. I sometimes I'll go down rabbit holes. I apologize, but
I'm right there with you.
That event was the most amount of belligerent drunks I've ever seen, where you would think Homebrew Con would just be but it seems like homebrewers have it together more, and belligerent might be the wrong word because it never got violent or I never saw projectile vomit or people. I just mean it seemed like more people didn't control themselves or pace themselves. Uber and Lyft probably were doing great that night, whereas at Homebrew Con, it seems like maybe a more mature crowd. I don't know if that's the right word either, but
Homebrew Con is one of those events where I get the opportunity to kind of go into the belly of the beast every year and see the refrigerated trailers that we have at the convention center docks that have all of the beer that will be served throughout the 3 days of the conference. And it's amazing to see how our beer services team keeps track of it all, because there's a lot. And it's one of those things where, you're there for 3 days, but the people who are there, they're on vacation and they're there to have a good time, but they're also there to learn about homebrewing. I mean, you can hear a seminar from Pat Fahey with Cicerone certification program. You can hear last year we had Ken Grossman, the founder of Sierra Nevada, there to speak. You get these opportunities to learn so much at the conference. And, don't get me wrong, there's beer to be had in lots of places, but people are not there. It's not a beer festival. This is very much a learning, and it's educational and fun at the same time, as corny as that sounds, but it's all those things wrapped into one. So yeah, people are typically very, they're not there for that. They're there
and that's a good point. You're right.
A good time and learn.
And the amount of money one might have to spend to go across the country potentially, it makes it probably a little bit more like, oh, I'm actually here to get, because y'all do offer year to year. Obviously they vary, but there are some solid seminars by big names like John Palmer. I believe, did Drew and Denny do a talk this year? I don't remember if they did one or if that was part of a different, like if they did one offsite. I forget. We were working it. Our friend Lorena Evans did one on fermentation. Michael Ferguson. Like, there's a lot of big names that y'all are able to bring. I don't know if you read Todd's email. He's like, "Oh, we should do a talk." I said, "Todd, let's hash this out. Let's hash these ideas out first. Like, there's some maybe better people more suited for it. They don't want to hear us jib jab for an hour."
The coolest thing about Homebrew Con is that you're getting to hear firsthand these educational seminars and these presentations from some of the homebrewing luminaries out there, like Denny Kahn, Drew Beecham, Gordon Strong, John Palmer. And not only are you just sitting there and listening to them give some sort of lecture, but like, they're at the conference all 3 days. You know, they're hanging out and they're interested in speaking with you about your homebrewing processes as well. So I remember you'd mentioned Michael Ferguson. He had given a seminar on going pro last year, and I remember he had finished up his seminar, I think sometime around like 11 a.m. or something, because the seminars get started early and about 9 a.m. And I remember he finished his seminar at like 11, and I remember seeing a bunch of people talking to him. And then I walked back by that same area probably like an hour later, and there was still people sitting there talking to him, you know, like, so they got this all access conversation with somebody who has opened dozens of breweries who are interested in, you know, opening their own brewery. So you really get access to pick the brains of some of these top homebrewing minds. It's a one-of-a-kind experience.
It really is. And we, you know, people, for a little bit, when it's Homebrew Con season, like leading up to it, like May, people, I'm pretty sure, think I'm on y'all's dole because I'm always like, you gotta go to Homebrew Con. But I think it's only because, too, how much, like you just said, how much fun you have and how approachable everyone is. Again, I can't tell you how many fun times I've had with guys I never thought I would have when I first started doing work with Todd in this industry. Like, John Blickman is one of the funnest people to hang out with.
Yeah, John's there in the Expo Hall every year.
Every year, and like you said, Michael, he lives here in Texas, and we talk frequently. But he could not be more approachable. We took him this year. We all went to dinner. I forget the name of the place, and these people who were at the conference, we were sitting with them, and he ended up. It was like a impromptu Q&A for them, and he couldn't have been more nice about it. He didn't.
Oh, cool.
You know, he brought it up, like you could tell they were kind of timid, like, if you don't mind, yeah, I'd love to ask this. He's like, oh, go ahead. You know,
yeah,
like,
that's exactly how he sounds too. Yeah, he's got a
I've been
very
working on it.
gregarious guy.
I've been working on it. I'll learn your voice too, and behind your back on the show, I'll do an impression.
Hidden talent there. That's cool.
I'm just really bad though. If I was really, if that's a talent. So for you and brewing, to take it back, we've been to the campus there in Boulder where the setup there could not be better in regards to like equipment and dispensing equipment. That tap area was like brand new, I think, when Todd and I went back in 2016, 2015. Are you still, now that you're remote, are you still brewing, or are you just so busy and you get so inundated with you're probably getting beer already for what you're doing, but are you still finding time to brew?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, once a homebrewer, always a homebrewer, you know? That's what's one of the things that I find it's great about this hobby is you can kind of change your process to be what's going to fit into your life. So as we were talking before the recording started, I became a dad for the first time in April. And, you know, I found myself getting back into sort of extract brewing. You know, I've got some of the more bulkier and fancier equipment, but like I don't have the time to spend doing a whole lot of that. So I've gotten back into extract brewing, and I've really made some of my best beers since I've gotten back into extract brewing. So like it's saving me some time. It's saving me. I'm still making great beer that I'm able to put on tap and still kind of stay sane as I'm raising a 6-month-old.
Let me know if you figure that part out, man.
Yeah. It's a lot.
You gotta, not to make this weird, but like you've got a great head of hair that might go away. I wear the hat because of my 3 kids. Look at this male pattern. This male pattern baldness could not be more gross or grossly.
I'll hold on to it while I can.
Yeah.
We'll see in a couple of years.
Literally. I feel so dad recently. Here's a rabbit trail. Sorry. Talking about being a dad though. I don't know. There's a place in Texas, specifically Central Texas, called Bill Miller Barbecue that has like these mugs that are specific to them, like a tea mug. It's hard to explain, but it's this big mug thing. And my whole childhood was my dad and my mom dragging me and my brother to like estate sales with my dad wearing these khaki shorts and carrying his mug, and he's walking like, oh, that looks nice. It's just window shopping. It was a waste of time. Fast forward to after I had a few kids and a weekend, I'm like, come on, kids, we're going to we're going to the yard sales, holding my Bill Miller tea mug. It's all come back full circle, man.
And the prophecy is fulfilled.
And I've had a dad bod since high school. So, I mean,
yeah, me too, man. I've been telling dad jokes for years. Now I finally have the dad part to back it up.
You got the street cred, man. I like that. Back to the Extract Brewing. Todd pushed me, he forced me into all grain with my dad. He gave me a real good deal on this like cooler brewing type of system, and it's a ton of fun. But there are some recipes where I'm like, man, I know it's probably going to end up for sure how I want it if I just do the extract version of it. Like there's a lot of there's some solace in extract brewing because, like you said, I don't need to control my mash for me to feel satisfied with the brew day, and it's a lot easier on the time management to do an extract batch. It's a lot cleaner or a lot easier to keep the whole day clean, if that makes sense.
I kind of compare homebrewing to cooking as much as possible because there's a lot of parallels there, and I kind of I've used this example before where if you're going to make a pizza or something, you can knead the dough and make the dough from scratch and then add your toppings and you've got this pizza that you made from scratch. Or you can purchase one of the pre-made pizza crusts and get a head start. You can still make it your own after that. You can still make it into what you want and exactly and cater it to your taste, and it'll be just as good. And I have been getting more into cooking recently, and that kind of has led to me doing a lot more of those, just finding ways to make my own process fit, but also I'm not going to make it harder on myself if I can make it come out to be just the way that I want it. So yeah, my brewing, I have been brewing a lot of, I'm a hophead, so I definitely love to brew things that are hoppy, but found that a style that was really popular a couple years ago that I feel like you don't really see a whole lot anymore sometimes with craft breweries. I really love black IPA or Cascadian Dark Ale or whatever you want to call it, American Black Ale. So that's kind of been my go-to is what I've been brewing recently because it's something that I'm not finding a whole lot on store shelves, but I can make it myself, and I've got a pretty good go-to recipe. So
I like that you covered your bases on the names because I will get a listener or two.
I'm sure
that'll write it and go, black IPA is not.
Yeah, I know. I've gotten that too. But as long as you know what I'm talking about, you can call it whatever you want.
Oh yeah, we had a delicious black IPA at our Christmas party last year that I've been trying to talk. Joe, he's a normal guest on here. He does homebrewsupply.com. He I believe it was his recipe, but it was the first time I'd had it, and I was like, oh, I love this. Like this was it was fun when it's done right. Oh, it's just incredible.
I love dark roasty characters, and I love hop flavors. So just having those two together, just oh man, that's that's kind of my desert island style, I would say.
Yeah, I have a shtick on this show that's not actually a shtick, but I hope people don't think I'm actually as obsessed with Kolsch as I pretend like I am on the show. But I'm not pretending because I really am. I've been Kolsch hard this year, and I'm getting into the stout season, brewing them and consuming them. But then I'll go back to a Kolsch. I'm like, oh yeah, never. I'm never leaving you. You'll be
I'm the same way with Helles. I drink Helles. That's my kind of standby. If I find it on store shelves or if I find a really great recipe. So yeah, I'm right there
A
with
good
you.
Helles is so smooth. It's just in any time you can just drink it. Hot days, cold days,
Yeah.
happy days, sad days. I mean, whatever days.
Yeah, happy days. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, anyway, I'd be remiss before wrapping it up if I didn't talk to you about. I mean, Learn to Homebrew Day is basically like the best opportunity ever for that. Hey, you've kind of looked and you see my posts on Facebook about brewing, and you've liked them, or you've talked to me. Maybe come into the fold, or at least brew with me a day, because we're gonna drink that day too, or we're gonna play games, or we're gonna do whatever that people do on their brew day. An easy way for people to do that is obviously by local homebrew clubs and shops that are hosting these events. Being in the AHA, I don't know if that affects your membership in a homebrew club, but I do know that you at least understand and respect the importance of like a brand new brewer finding community in a homebrew club.
Oh, definitely. I think one of the things that's the best part about this hobby is homebrew clubs. You can read as many books as you want, or you can read blogs, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos. But I really believe that there's no substitute for going to your local homebrew club and learning from the people in that club, because maybe somebody has a slightly different process, or brewing chemistry is the same all around the world, but processes are different. So like you might find that there is something that somebody else is doing that would work a lot better for you. Or even if you're not going to learn something, we all get into home brewing for the same reason, right? That beer is awesome and we want to make it like it's a lot of fun. But I think people get into home brewing and then they don't realize at first that there's this really great community of homebrewers, this network of people around the country that are ready to want to engage with you and talk to you about it. So, going to your local homebrew club, I think, is one of the things that we try to encourage. We try to do our best to support homebrew clubs. We actually rolled out a couple of years ago the AHA's club insurance program. So I'm sure that all of your listeners really love getting on the edge of their seat to learn about insurance premiums and stuff like that.
That's why I brought you on. I mean, let's
to talk about insurance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, homebrew clubs, obviously, there's inherently some things that might be liable for the homebrew club if somebody were to not only something were to happen because of consuming alcohol, but if the club were to host an event and somebody were to trip, or some sort of injury not even related to beer were to happen, the homebrew clubs are covered for any kind of liability through the AHA's insurance policy, and it's only $3.75 per member per year. So a homebrew club can get covered, depending on their size, for
that's cheap.
30, 40 bucks, all the way up to, maybe if it's a big club, maybe a couple $100. But those same kind of coverages on the open market can cost thousands of dollars. So it's a service that we provide to the homebrew clubs that we're really we worked on finding the right partner for it for about 10 years, and we're really happy to be able to offer it now. The homebrewing club, the homebrewing community is one of those ones where if you I know it can be intimidating sometimes for people who don't always want to just put themselves out there to a community of strangers, but like there's no strangers in those crowds. So definitely, if you're listening to this and you've not been to your local homebrew club meeting, I encourage you to.
Yeah, I push it a lot. And ironically enough, I am not a member of any of the local Austin clubs. I've been, my dad and I are talking about forming our own, just because it would be easier to be in more control of our schedule that way.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure.
But Austin has, obviously the Zealots.
Yeah.
They're huge. And then Saz.
Carboys. Saz, yep. That's another one down there. Yeah, I mean, the thing that's also great about homebrew clubs is that, like I was mentioning earlier in the podcast, I now have a 6-month-old, and I don't have time to brew quite as much as I used to, but I do have time to go to a homebrew club meeting once a month, and it allows me to engage in the hobby and talk shop about homebrewing, and therefore I am still able to maybe I didn't do an entire brew day that month, but I was able to go to the homebrew club meeting and I was able to learn some new stuff or engage in the hobby in some way. So it's a really great way for people who want to stay involved and further their own homebrewing knowledge, but it's also just a great way to stay engaged within the hobby.
Yeah, it scratches the itch and it keeps the fire going. Like, because homebrewing, I won't say it's easy to get burned out, but if you're doing it on your own, for me, who I'm a person of efficient time management, which just means I'm lazy, I could quit a hobby quick. You know what I mean? Like, I could get into something, and homebrewing is one of those ones where you get into it and the bug is gonna bite you, and you're gonna want to be really into it. And I think joining a club helps guide your fervor in a sustainable way. We're doing it on your own. You might be like, I'm buying a recipe every other week and I'm brewing every other weekend. Mm-hmm. And then you might hit that wall where you're like, I'm brewing once a month. No, now I'm not brewing at all. And a community just kind of helps you. If it is a hobby that you are wanting to continue, that it helps keep that fervor going to where you're like, oh yeah, this is why I brew, not just because I want beer that I brewing myself and it tastes good at the end of the day. The reasons I find myself brewing now, me and my pop get to spend good quality time together while we brew. Our friends that come to our brew day, we get to, we play bad toss. I refuse to call it cornhole. It still sounds weird to me, but we bad toss, washers. When I'm brewing up at headquarters, I get to brew on a phenomenal system with Toddy as a real nice spike system. So, I mean, I get like brew days for me are more than just, I'm going to get some good beer out of this. It becomes this whole higher thing for me. Experience.
It's a memory you're making. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost therapeutic,
Yeah. That's another great thing about homebrew clubs too, is homebrewing, the hobby itself stripped down to just what it is you're making beer. But homebrew clubs typically have some other kind of ways that you can be involved in the hobby that aren't necessarily going to somebody's house and brewing a beer. Like one of my favorite ones that one of the things that AHA does is we award the Radagast Club of the Year award every year, where it used to be called the Awesome Club of Awesomeness Award, but we needed something that would roll off the tongue a little bit more. And homebrew clubs submit their applications for this every year, and we ask them questions about what they're doing to really make a difference in their community and stuff like that. So I get to read through those every year and just be reminded of just all the awesome stuff that homebrew clubs do. And, they're not always out there tooting their own horn and saying, we're doing all this great stuff. But then you get into the weeds and kind of learn more about what these homebrew clubs are doing. And they're doing really cool events. One of my favorites is, was a club in Gainesville, Florida called the Hogtown Brewers. And I'm going to say what I'm pretty sure the event is. If there's somebody with the club listening to this, they might be able to correct me. But they do the Hogtown Regatta every year. And the way it works is all of the club members rent kayaks or canoes or whatever, and they do a river cleanup throughout the day. So they float the river and are picking up trash, but they also have like a homebrew beer barge where people are going and going and having a good time throughout the day. And then they do like a camping event that night. So they're helping the community and they're engaging in the homebrewing hobby with in a social way. It's just, there's so many examples of that. That's just the first thing that comes to mind.
Man, what good advocates are those guys? Because if you asked me, it would be like, I played cornhole with my pup. We're drinking beer. Like, we're not good advocates. Yeah. Don't use me as an example.
Yeah, there's the homebrew club. Oh gosh, the Heart of the Valley Homebrewers. They are in Corvallis, Oregon. They do Adopt a Highway every year. They pick up trash and clean up their community. The Maltose Falcons in Southern California, they do a big toy drive every year.
I'm familiar with that one. Yeah, we have a lot of listeners from there.
I think they're the oldest homebrew club in the country.
Right.
I believe they're celebrating their 45th anniversary this year. I could be wrong, but congratulations to them if anybody's listening. But they're a great club. They do some awesome stuff for the community. So yeah, I mean, homebrewing is brewing beer, but the community of homebrewers is truly a community, and they're out there helping their own communities, their own localities, and all these cool ways that are tied to homebrewing, but are also really impacting their community. And that's what I find to be so cool.
Absolutely. It is the best. And then before we wrap it up, I want to get your opinion and your thoughts on the two kind of perspectives going into Learn to Homebrew Day. As someone listening to this, and let's say, obviously, a lot of our audience is pretty brand new to the hobby. If they want to be a part of an event or find an event, what is the resources that the AHA offers them to find it? And then on the other end, do you have any tips for people doing events who this may be their first year to be maybe as welcoming as possible? Do y'all have any sort of like rules of thumb that they can be like, oh, I didn't think of that. Yeah, we should make it family friendly or whatever y'all may, tips you may have to offer.
Sure. I'd say for anybody who is looking to get into the hobby, I just kind of say, jump in feet first. There again, like I said earlier, there's no stranger in this crowd. If you're maybe feeling hesitant about going to an event, by yourself, then I'd say bring a friend, so that you can, not only are you introducing two people to the hobby, but you're also, you got somebody to talk to and introduce, yourself with while you're there. Ask questions, be as engaged as possible, and don't be afraid to try on a different for the homebrew clubs. Don't be afraid to just kind of try on a couple different homebrew clubs. Maybe you'll find if there's multiple ones in your area that maybe you like the larger format of a big crowd, or maybe you like the smaller format. Don't be afraid to go to a couple of different ones. And to the people who are organizing an event, I would say we've got a whole list of resources for people organizing an event. We've got these. I don't have one sitting right in front of me, unfortunately, but we've got a pamphlet called "Go Brew Yourself." And it's something we introduced a couple of years ago that's got a really great aesthetic look to it, and it introduces people to the hobby. And if you're interested in hosting a big brew event or a Learn to Homebrew Day event, you can actually request to us to send those to you. We send them to you complimentary. You can request as many as you want, and you can hand them out to people at your event. That's one of the easiest things that you can do to organize a Learn to Homebrew Day event. And also we provide a list of local media contacts if you need it. So you can send out your own press release and say, we're doing this event, and try to get some of your local reporters or newspapers to cover it. So, if you're interested in learning more, definitely go to the AHA's website at homebrewersassociation.org and click around and learn a little bit more about the AHA. Learn to Homebrew Day information is under the events tab. Where there's also information about Homebrew Con, which we covered pretty extensively here. So, if I hope that everybody listening to this gets an opportunity to go out to a local Learn to Homebrew Day event. But if not, we'd love to see you all in Nashville, which is June 18th through the 20th, 2020.
I love it. I also love that you are so humble that you didn't even mention that they should join the AHA. Look at you. But they should. They really should, though. Come on.
They should. The AHA does so much for the hobby. I mean, we would go way longer than your listeners want to be stuck listening to us, but we get involved in homebrewing legislation to protect homebrewer rights. When I came on staff in 2013, homebrewing wasn't even legal in all 50 states. We helped pass legislation in Alabama and Mississippi to legalize homebrewing. So those were the last two states to legalize it. So it is legal in all 50 states. But I mean, we're regularly involved in working on homebrewing legislation. We produce Zymergy magazine, which comes out 6 times per year. And is chock full of all sorts of homebrewing recipes and tips and tricks and articles. And we also have, if you're a member, you get access to a network of discounts called our AHA Member Deals program, where, you go into almost any brewery around the country and you show them your AHA member card, and they'll give you something like $1 off your first beer, or it's a happy hour prices anytime or something like that. So usually membership pays for itself in just a couple visits to your local brewery as well. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, when we go out to a tap room at a brewery, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got my card in my wallet, and like, oh, okay, yeah, your first pour is half off or something. Like, oh, hey,
yeah, exactly. And you don't want to carry a card around. I mean, I definitely recommend downloading our app. It's called Brew Guru, and you can actually start a free trial of the AHA membership for 30 days. That'll let you log on, and you'll be able to access those discounts. You'll be able to access back issues of Zymergy magazine all the way back to, I believe it's 2001. So a lot of content. We've got over 1,000 homebrewing recipes that actually are gold medal winners from the National Homebrew Competition. So, I'm sure you can find a homebrewing recipe anywhere on your internet machines at home. But the AHA's archive of all of these recipes, all of them have won a gold medal in the national competition. So, like, you're guaranteed to be making a fantastic beer.
They're proven, right?
Yeah, they're proven. And if you haven't been to Homebrew Con, we record all of the seminars and post them to the website. There's over 400 hours of homebrewing seminar presentations on the website you can access. So again, this is just a little bit of the benefits we offer, but membership starts at $38 a year. So for the cost of dinner and a couple beers, you're getting really one of the most phenomenal resources for homebrewers in existence.
I agree. And like you said, we could talk about this for a whole other episode. Maybe what I'll do is I'll spend Todd's money and we could go to Boulder and interview Gary one of these days.
I'm sure he would love to do that. Yeah.
Y'all's campus was so cool. Like in Pearl Street, I forgot the name of the pizza joint that we ate there, but it was really... I don't know if there's more than one.
Country Pizza? Well, there's lots of pizza places in Boulder.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it was one. I just remember I had like 4 or 5 slices left over because I was like, oh, I'm gonna murder these when we get back to the hotel later. It's gonna be great. And then like this young, obviously college age guy who was like, hey, bro, I'm homeless. You gonna eat that? And I was like, it was the biggest jerk moment of my life. I was like, yeah, no, I'm saving this. Like you have a 6-pack, man, and you look like you're 24. You're good. You don't need my pizza. God.
Yeah. Well, I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah. I just like to reinforce to people and my guests that I'm a terrible person, Matt. That's all. Hey,
who loves pizza?
Yeah, all kidding aside, I really appreciate your time. Learn to Homebrew Day is Saturday, November the 2nd. If you want more information, like Matt had said, you could go to homebrewersassociation.org. If you Google Learn to Homebrew Day, it'll take you right to that link too. So, Matt, I really appreciate your time. You coming and doing the show with me. And I'm going to find you at Homebrew Con and make sure you remember me.
I'll be running around. It's at Nashville, June 18th to the 20th. We're going to be releasing hotels soon. So I know it's a lot of people got to plan ahead for their vacations. So it's freaking Nashville. We want to see you there.
Nashville. All right, Matt, take care, man. I'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thanks again.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, visit homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Remember that these episodes are ultimately made possible by people like you. Consider joining our Patreon community by visiting patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and check out the awesome perks we have for our members. On behalf of Todd Burns and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.
This program is made possible by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns and by contributions to our newly launched Patreon by viewers like you. Visit patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and join our community. Thank you.